Senator Babet.
My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Having previously denied a link between money printing and inflation, RBA Governor Dr Philip Lowe finally admitted during recent Senate estimates that the expansion of the money supply, low interest rates and government support during the pandemic has driven inflation. Prior to the 2022 election, the former coalition government ran up hundreds of billions of dollars of debt with little to show for it but some expired PCR tests and, of course, an artificially inflated property market where it's nearly impossible for first home buyers to get into the market. Now, do you believe that the irresponsible and unprecedented debt accumulated by the former government has contributed to the inflationary pressures that are currently being felt by ordinary Australians? And I will remind you as well that the Labor Party was also in agreement with most of this.
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Babet for the question and also for his advice that he would be asking a question relating to debt and inflation. And I would agree with Senator Babet that the significant increase in government debt that was increased under the former government, a lot of that, they doubled the debt before the pandemic hit, has certainly led to the budget being in worse shape than it needed to be, and that there wasn't enough to show for the debt that we currently carry, and that managing that debt burden is the fastest growing area in the budget, is managing the interest burden on that debt. So it is a big problem, and it is a big issue that we are having to manage as we work our way through the decisions we're taking in this budget. I think the inflation challenge has certainly been made worse by the failure in energy policy. 9 years of failure to deal with the reality of a changing energy market, and the fact that we haven't been able to be ahead of that and have in place policies that have been able to deal with it has certainly contributed, because one of the biggest contributors to inflation, of course, has been energy prices, impacted by the war in Ukraine, but absolutely also impacted by the failure of those opposite to land an agreed energy policy. 22 of them, not one of them landed, and the fact that we are now dealing with the results of that has certainly been had an impact on inflation, which is why we took the steps we took at the end of last year to put in place caps, to put in place the interventions that we did, unusual as they were, to make sure we were putting downward pressure on inflation and bills at the same time.
Has expired. Senator Babet, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Now, I guess we're in agreement now that increased government spending does indeed contribute to high inflation. So why is the government, the Labor government, not responsibly attempting to heavily reduce spending to balance the budget and to actually make a start on repaying our nation's debt? Why all the big spending?
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Babet for the supplementary. Well, I would say to Senator Babet, the October budget banked 99% of the revenue upgrades that we received through that budget update. 99%. It's unprecedented, and I think that goes to show the approach that the Treasurer, Dr. Chalmers, and I take in terms of budget management. And it's not just how much you spend; it's the quality of the spend. Are the investments you're making driving an economic outcome, an economic or social outcome? So our childcare investments, our investments in cleaner and cheaper energy, our investments in medicines, all of those things. It's about the quality of the spend. We don't want to pork barrel our way around the country like those opposite did. We need to make sure that every dollar that's spent is invested in the productive capacity of our country and improves the living standards of Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Babet, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. So I guess it's pretty clear that all governments lack the courage to cut spending because it's unpleasant to do so. Now, will you rule out future taxes on the family home, and will you confirm that your government will proceed with the stage 3 tax cuts to ensure that Australians can keep more of their own money and keep up with the rising costs of living? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister.
Thank you. Well, on the question around taxes on the family home, we understand the importance of the family home, and it will remain exempt from capital gains tax. I think the Prime Minister and Treasurer have made that clear in recent weeks, and our position on stage 3 hasn't changed. On the spending side, I think we do need to acknowledge that significant amounts, the vast proportion of spending in the Commonwealth budget is in payments through our social security system and payments to the states and territories. These are, significant parts of the budget. So when people say they want, to see big cuts to things, you have to be understanding that that means big cuts to sort of social programs that people value, or payments to the states and territories. So we are fiscally responsible. We do have an eye on budget repair, but we're going to be cautious about how we approach it, because we know people rely on services that the Australian
Thank
budget
you, Minister.
funds.
The time for answers.
That's my kind of party. Being